November 12th, 1992.
A primetime undercover investigation. Black Muslims are charging a fortune for their miracle cure for AIDS. They've even convinced the U.S. government to spend millions testing it. Tonight, Chief Correspondent Chris Wallace exposes the truth and confronts a doctor accused of bilking money from desperate patients.
We've talked to scientists, people in the black community, and you know what they say your objective is? Ripping off your own people.
If that's what their opinion is, they can go to hell.
She was a mother and wife with a dazzling military career. Promotion after promotion, a Bronze Star. But after 27 years of honors, it all came crashing down.
You're tearing down the America that I love and I would give my life for.
I almost gave mine for it.
I wish you had.
Tonight, Sylvia Chase talks to the colonel who was ousted after she gave an honest answer to a difficult question.
If you love the military, how can you embarrass them like this?
What's it all about?
And what's it all about for actor Michael Caine?
Suddenly, if you become rich and famous, you can also suddenly become very attractive to the opposite sex.
Tonight, his rags to riches story reveals a surprising twist. He tells Nancy Collins about the secret his mother kept for over 60 years.
She wouldn't tell my father when he married her.
He never knew either.
Nobody knew.
Last week, we went behind the counters of Food Lion, the nation's fastest growing grocery chain, and showed you how old food was repackaged, dressed up with barbecue sauce, or given a new date. Tonight, you'll hear from shoppers who defend Food Lion.
I think it was a hoax.
And some who don't, including this man.
Well, I lifted up the old price tag, and under it, it had another date of when the meat was really supposed to expire.
From ABC News, with anchors Diane Sawyer in New York, Sam Donaldson in Washington, Chief Correspondent Chris Wallace, Judd Rose, Jay Shadler, Sylvia Chase, John Quinones, and Nancy Collins. This is Prime Time.
What if you could choose any car in the world, and price was no object? Your heart's desire, just for the asking. A USA Today reader poll answered that question. Lincoln Town Car. The Ferrari came in second. Lincoln. What a luxury car should be.
Speak. Sing. Read.
The one trick he can't do is read a label, so it's your job to find out a fancy dry dog food like Science Diet starts with ground corn. It's the first ingredient. Well, Purina One brand dog formula starts with chicken. And chicken, with corn, wheat, and other ingredients, provides high-quality nutrition. So give your dog Purina One.
Purina One, second to none.
Maybe we should try piano lessons.
In 3 days, the television event of the year, The Jacksons, Sunday at 8, 7 Central.
Prime Time. From New York, Diane Sawyer.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime. The Nation of Islam, the Black Muslims, they are a powerful force in many African-American communities in this country, proclaiming their integrity and commitment to defend Black Americans, especially against what they see as exploitation by whites. And some of them say that exploitation extends to AIDS. A recent poll showed that nearly 30% of Black Americans said they thought the AIDS virus may have been deliberately created in a laboratory to infect Black people. A fear that may have created an opportunity for Dr. Abdul Ali Muhammad, a powerful and charismatic Black Muslim leader. Chief Correspondent Chris Wallace decided to investigate after hearing that Muhammad insists he has the key to saving thousands, maybe millions of lives, if only people would listen to his message and heed his warning.
The attitude of the American government towards this epidemic is disgusting. There's compelling evidence on the public record to suggest that maybe HIV is a biological weapon. Somebody is out to kill you.
It is one of the darkest fears of Black America, that the AIDS virus is a man-made biological weapon designed to wipe out the Black race. This man, Dr. Abdul Ali Muhammad, is spreading that message. and offering a treatment developed in Africa he says can beat AIDS.
It's almost like a miracle that it has the ability to reverse the signs and symptoms of AIDS in almost every case.
I'm standing on a firm foundation.
Muhammad is the health minister of the Nation of Islam, the black Muslim sect headed by Louis Farrakhan. Last month, more than 50,000 people gathered at the Nation of Islam's national conference in Atlanta and heard Muhammad preach about black separatism and his new black drug.
We have been fighting the war on AIDS, and I want you to know we're winning the war on AIDS.
Muhammad first gained notice in 1988 when he brought black Muslims into this Washington, D.C. housing project to root out drug dealers.
We didn't kill them. We didn't hurt them. But we took their weapons and spanked them.
Then, last year, he turned a clinic he runs in the project into an AIDS center, where he started treating patients with an unapproved drug called oral interferon, brand name Immunex. He says the results have been astonishing.
HIV should no longer be considered to be a fatal illness. It should be considered something that is treatable.
You're saying that an AIDS patient who goes on Immunex, on oral interferon, won't die?
More than 90% of cases.
It sounds too good to be true, and according to the nation's top scientists, it is. Dr. Daniel Hoth reviews new AIDS drugs for the National Institutes of Health.
We couldn't find any conclusive evidence that oral interferon was benefiting patients.
In any way?
In any way.
But Dr. Muhammad has ignored NIH. Over the past year, he's organized 10 AIDS clinics around the country, and they are not typical treatment centers. None of the doctors is trained to deal with infectious diseases like HIV. And all of the clinics sell Immunex as the primary treatment, even though top scientists say there's no evidence the black Muslim miracle cure does anything. Primetime sent AIDS patients in undercover to some of Muhammad's clinics. More than 700 people with the AIDS virus, most of them poor, have been put on Immunex. And when they ask why the drug hasn't been approved, they're told there's been a deliberate whiteout by the media and government.
White people are not going to tell you how to save yourself. So do not ask me, please, why the white people are not bringing in effective therapies.
Do you really believe that the white scientists in this country at NIH would suppress a drug that could conceivably be a cure for AIDS because of some black ties?
I think so. I think that's absolutely what they're doing. And because this is America, isn't it? Isn't this America?
I have AIDS. I have taken oral interferon. I am not cured.
Bill Thompson is one of hundreds of AIDS patients who have tried and stopped using oral interferon. He is so outraged by the way Muhammad is pushing the drug to blacks, he helped us in our undercover investigation.
My black community does not own AIDS. The white community does not own AIDS. This is a worldwide disease that is affecting all of us, and we cannot afford to separate ourselves from each other.
The effectiveness of Muhammad's treatment is not the only issue. So too is the price he charges. In our undercover visits, we found every patient must sign up for a 6-month program of doctor's visits, lab tests, and Immunex that costs almost $2,500. They're not told the drug is available at a fraction of the cost at independent AIDS buyers clubs. And even though most of Muhammad's patients are poor, those who can't pay are routinely turned away.
That is a lot of money for some people. Is there some kind of arrangement or anything?
At the moment, we do not have that because the doctor is trying to work on getting the financing, the price down.
Their wallets are being emptied at the same time that their darkest racial fears are being exploited.
Martin Delaney, who runs a hotline for the latest news on AIDS drugs and is on an NIH advisory panel, says what Muhammad is doing is ugly.
Mr. Delaney, you must realize that as a white man saying this, you are immediately suspect.
No, I understand that, but here you're taking a relatively discredited drug with an exaggerated price and selling it to the poorest people affected by AIDS and asking them to pay for it not out of insurance but out of their own pockets. Believe me, if a white guy were doing that to the black community, I'd be at the front of the line trying to shoot that person.
Interferon has had a controversial history. It's been used for years, injected in very high doses to fight leukemia and hepatitis. Then 4 years ago, a Texas veterinarian started using tiny doses given orally to treat animal viruses. Researchers in Kenya started experimenting on people, and in 1990 announced startling results in fighting the AIDS virus. They said almost all patients showed a sharp rise in disease-fighting T cells, indicating a strengthening of their immune system. More astonishing, they claimed 20% converted from HIV positive to negative, the only time anyone's been cured of AIDS. News of this miracle cure rocked the medical community. Hundreds of AIDS patients made the long trip to Africa to try the new drug. One man, named Stephen, went on CNN hiding his identity to spread the good news.
I haven't felt this good safely, I can safely say, in 2 years. My energy level's incredible.
2 years ago, it seemed to be working. Recently, we caught up with Stephen to find out how he is doing now.
The last that people heard of you, you were in Africa, on oral interferon, and feeling terrific.
I got home and I had all the blood work done again and nothing had changed. Back to right where I was before I went.
What was the experience of the other people?
They're all dead. They've all died.
Interest in oral interferon died down until last year when Dr. Muhammad reignited the controversy, making his own trip to Kenya. Although he has no training to treat AIDS patients, he says he came back with a mission to push the drug under the name Immunex in the black community.
I realized that coming from Africa, that people would just dismiss it as some kind of African jungle mumbo-jumbo.
Muhammad and his network of clinics were soon selling Immunex to hundreds of patients.
Have a seat here. Sure.
He arranged for us to meet Dale Corbett, a longtime AIDS survivor who's been on the drug for almost a year.
Strongly relieved. If it wasn't for the Immunex, I would be dead.
Corbett told us he is now free from AIDS and showed us his lab report as proof. The T-cell count is the most widely accepted marker for the disease. Around 1,200 is normal. You are considered to have full-blown AIDS when T-cells drop below 200. Corbett was delighted that his count had risen from 0 to 4.
So you think this is an indication that the drug works, that you have 4 T-cells?
Yeah, after I didn't have any at all. I mean, you know, look at next month I may have 15, and next month I may have 30. See, it doubles. The medicine makes it doubles.
But experts say minor fluctuations in T-cell count mean nothing. The only drugs that have shown any sustained impact and prolong people's lives are antiviral drugs like AZT. But in our undercover trips to Nation of Islam clinics, we found patients were told to get off AZT and other approved drugs, and to get on the miracle cure.
Well, did you know that we were telling people not to take AZT?
No, I didn't know. Why?
Why not to take AZT? Because it's poison.
There's no scientific basis for giving a patient that advice.
Concerned about the growing controversy, scientists at NIH finally stepped in last April, reviewing 13 studies of oral interferon from around the world. They found the Kenyan study scientifically flawed and came to this conclusion on the drug's effectiveness.
So far, there's no evidence from well-designed, well-controlled trials to show that patients receive any kind of benefit.
You would think the strong statement from NIH would have ended this controversy. But Dr. Muhammad only stepped up his campaign and gained important allies in the black community. The mayor of Washington praised his work on AIDS, and the city's health commissioner agreed with Muhammad that Immunex was being dismissed because of its ties to Africa. Even the National Medical Association of Black Doctors passed a resolution stating Immunex has been shown to be a potentially effective therapy and called on NIH to conduct one more study of the drug. But no black leader raised any concerns about charges that Muhammad is profiteering. As we said, you can buy oral interferon far more cheaply at AIDS buyers clubs around the country than from Muhammad. Here in Washington, a club sells 30 tablets of Imulin for $55. But the black Muslims sell their brand, Immunex, for $250. That's a 500% markup. Doctor, we've talked to a number of people, scientists, people in the black community, and you know what they say your objective is? Ripping off your own people.
Well, they're entitled to their opinion. If that's what their opinion is, they can go to hell.
Doctor, why are you charging 5 times as much for exactly the same drug?
Well, what you're showing there, Imulin, is not exactly the same thing. I think I probably used the term counterfeit. I think that's what it is. It doesn't work.
Muhammad has sent a letter to his clinics dismissing the rival brand, Imulin, as phony, not even worth $1. But in fact, both brands are made by the same company, Encourage, whose president, Roger Wyatt, says they are the same drug sold in different markets.
There's no difference in Immunex and Imulin. That's two trade names for the same product.
Doctor, we talked to Encourage, and they told us the only difference is the packaging.
If that's so, I'm not aware of it, and I do see a distinct difference in clinical effect.
Just to make sure, we got some Immunex and some Imulin, marked the pills so only we knew which was which, and sent them off to this independent lab to run a blind test. They tested them. You know what the results were?
No, I don't.
No. They're identical.
That doesn't make sense. It doesn't really make sense.
Why?
I'm just saying that based on my clinical experience with both medications, they are not the same. These statements notwithstanding. That's all that I can say at this point.
And yet, despite all the evidence that the Nation of Islam is profiteering, despite all the studies that show the drug doesn't work, Muhammad is winning the public relations battle over oral interferon.
Thank you for everything.
2 weeks ago, NIH rejected the advice of its own AIDS panel and announced it will conduct one more study of the drug. There, celebrating the announcement, was Dr. Muhammad.
That another giant step is going to be taken.
Are you caving into pressure from the black community?
We don't think so.
You say that what Dr. Muhammad is telling his patients has no basis in science, may potentially jeopardize his patients. Why are you letting him in the door?
That doesn't mean we're going to... all that means is that we're willing to listen and find out what claims are being made.
But NIH will do more than listen. The new test will cost taxpayers millions of dollars. AIDS activists are outraged.
There's any number of important AIDS drugs that can't be tested right now because the money isn't there. Should this one be tested again to address the political problems, it will ultimately delay the bringing of effective therapy to people in the black community.
While NIH studies a drug it is already discredited, Muhammad is charging ahead, opening more clinics, selling more Immunex, and planning to make and distribute the drug himself.
If our people need medicine, we have to produce the medicine because we can't trust them anymore.
And now just a footnote. We want to point out that the drug Immunex has no connection to the biotechnology company Immunex Corporation, which is based in Seattle.
Still ahead, more on our Food Lion investigation. Find out how customers react to charges the grocery chain sells old food. Also, actor Michael Caine talks about discovering a family secret that had been hidden for decades. But first, she dedicated her life to serving her country. But when she told the truth, her career was shattered. Prime Time, brought to you by new Promise Ultra Spread, the absolute lowest in fat of any leading brand.
This is one way to cut some fat from your family's diet. This is a whole new way. Introducing new Promise Ultra, the spread that's the absolute lowest in fat of any leading brand. That's right. Promise Ultra is the lowest in fat. Plus, it has 65% fewer calories than margarine and a light, delicate taste. So cut some fat from your family's diet a whole new way with Promise Ultra. Get heart smart.
Can a razor cut your beard below the skin without the blades touching your face? It can if it's a Norelco, because inside the floating heads, our lift and cut system lifts the hair so when it's cut, it can drop below skin level without the blades touching your face. Are you shaving this incredibly close and comfortable? You are when you shave with Norelco. Norelco, we make close comfortable.
We chose AT&T because our 800 service is our front door. If it shuts down, we shut down. To us, a single 800 call could be worth thousands of dollars. If a customer dials our 800 number and can't get through, it's like telling them to take their business somewhere else. When you have competition like I do, you better be there for your customers.
The things we do to control what we eat.
Now you can give in to your craving for snacks the smart way. Introducing Orville Redenbacher's Smart Pop. Compared to potato chips, new Smart Pop has 80% less fat and a third fewer calories. So you can eat and eat and eat and not feel the least bit guilty. New Smart Pop. Orville Redenbacher, of course.
Of course.
He kidnapped an Exxon executive, locked him in a box, let him die.
He shuddered, and he died. I was holding him, and he died.
Now he tells me his story, as does the widow of his victim. You've never heard a story like this. A 2020 exclusive, Friday.
For these 4 stars, golf's the thing, but who's the king of swing? Masters champion Fred Couples, U.S. Open champ Tom Kite, Australian star Greg Norman, and defending champ Payne Stewart. An all-star quartet gets into the swing of things in their sports big money showdown. Golf's most entertaining event, the Skins Game, Thanksgiving weekend on ABC Sports.
Prime time. Now from Washington, Sam Donaldson.
You're about to meet a woman who was one of the best and the brightest in her field. Yet she was fired for telling the truth. And she's not alone. The U.S. military has dismissed more than 15,000 people in the last decade for the same reason, homosexuality. Among them, as Sylvia Chase explains, Colonel Greta Kammermeyer, who was discharged for honestly answering a very difficult question.
When the security clearance officer asked you the question, did you hesitate?
I asked him to repeat the question.
And he said?
He repeated the question, and I said, I am a lesbian. And felt that, oh, my career is over.
It had been an extraordinary career. For 27 years, Colonel Marguerite Kammermeyer earned 9 promotions and a chest full of medals that includes the Bronze Star from Vietnam. Now she has one further distinction. She's the highest-ranking military official ever to be discharged for being gay. This past June, following the discharge, she found herself opposing the military in what she says is the most important battle of her life.
I'm extremely proud to be an American, proud to have worn the uniform.
At a press conference, she announced her lawsuit for reinstatement. Afterward, she was confronted by an angry veteran and his wife.
You're dirt-digging troublemakers. You're tearing down the American family.
Accused of sabotaging the very nation she'd sworn to defend.
You're tearing down the America that I love and I would give my life for.
I almost gave mine for it.
I wish you had.
You call a press conference just to make trouble.
Make trouble. That's what it's for.
I love the military, and I use that in the present tense.
If you love the military, how can you embarrass them like this?
Well, I'm giving them the opportunity to not be embarrassed by ruining the lives, essentially, and humiliating people because of who they are.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I am not anti-military. I'm just saying this regulation is as wrong as it was to keep blacks from serving in the military, to keep women from serving in the military. This is a national embarrassment.
But you know how this kind of thing is done in the military, in society?
I don't. I don't know how it's done. I don't know how the regulations are made, but I know that the regulations have been changed in the past and that they need to be changed now. And if people don't stand up, then nothing ever changes.
Greta Kammermeyer's determination has its roots in wartime Norway.
I was born during the Nazi occupation, and we lived across from Nazi headquarters in Oslo.
Her parents hid resistance fighters in their home. Little Greta was transfixed by their stories, knowing that her heroes would one day go to Valhalla, the Viking heaven for warriors.
So as a child, I used to wonder, I wonder if push came to shove, if I would risk my life and stand up for the principles of equality and justice.
After the war, the Kammermeyers immigrated to the country that had liberated them, where Greta grew up all-American. By 1961, she'd taken the oath and joined the Army Nurse Corps.
There was a part of me that felt that this was something that I could give back,
Repaying the United States for giving you a home, for
Yes.
giving you freedom.
Yes.
The All-American Girl made the All-American Marriage in 1965 to fellow officer Harvey Hawken.
I wanted to get married in my dress blues. My mother said no.
Army all the way. They volunteered together for Vietnam in 1967. It was 14 months of some of the war's worst fighting. During the Tet Offensive, Lieutenant Greta Hawken nursed an endless stream of the wounded, the dying.
She was made for this kind of work.
Dr. Donald Patrick, then a captain, was head of Greta's neurosurgery unit. He remembers a 6-foot-tall, born leader.
Greta could look up and glance at the corpsman, and if he wasn't doing something right, I mean, he would kill himself to do what was right within the next 30 seconds. They did what they were told and wanted to. She made them want to.
We were a family. It was where I grew up, as a nurse, as a person, as a soldier.
By 1969, Greta was also a mother, stateside starting a new family, and she had switched into the reserves. The Hawkins bought a farm near Seattle, raised 4 boys, and grew raspberries for their winery.
Living happily ever after, it was the ideal.
But it wasn't her ideal, and the marriage fell apart when she realized she was miserable and had no idea why. A lot of people are going to look at you and say, how in the world could this woman not know that she was a homosexual person? How do you explain that to people?
I don't know that I can.
In fact, experts say Greta's was a textbook case. Lesbians of her generation often took years to realize their sexual preferences.
My parents were raised in an era where homosexuality was a mental illness.
That was what you were taught?
Yeah. And they didn't know how to cure it yet.
After her divorce, Greta struggled to come to terms with her sexuality, yet continued to pile success upon success in her career. When Ronald Reagan cited her as Nurse of the Year, it only rounded out the full page of honors on her 15-page resume. She was headed for her lifelong goal, a general's star. But one step to getting there required a security clearance, and the question for which she finally had the correct answer.
When they asked the question, it was like, yeah, this is who I am.
With the career, the investment, all of this time, why did you have to say, I am a lesbian?
Well, because it's the truth. I represent honor and integrity as an officer in the military. And to say anything less than what I believe to be the truth would be to defy all of those very premises on which I base my life.
It was one thing to come out to the military, another to tell her children.
She was scared.
Matt, the oldest, married to Lynette. David, Tom. Andy is camera shy. What did she say? Sit down, Matt, I have something to tell you.
We went upstairs. I mean, this is the first formal sit-down mother to son talk. Ever. So I was thinking, gosh, you know, we're talking about wills or death.
How did she phrase it?
She felt ashamed.
She said, I would never choose to be gay. And she cried talking about it, and it hit me very hard. Because you could tell it was something that was very difficult for her to deal with.
Greta Kammermeyer's self-discovery apparently wasn't easy for the military either. After she told them the truth, it took 3 more years for the Washington State National Guard to see her discharged through. Word is that officials at the Guard were reluctant to lose one of their shining stars, and they dragged their feet in carrying out Pentagon policy. But the National Guard general who finally discharged Colonel Kammermeyer wouldn't talk to Primetime, and neither would the Pentagon. These days, Greta Kammermeyer, the activist, has been on the front lines of her new battle at Seattle's recent Gay Pride rally.
If I'm going to lose my military career, I'm going to go like a Viking, sword in hand, and will end up in Valhalla when I die.
but she instructs the rest of the troops not to use her as an example.
Don't. I mean, we've lost enough. You know, don't lie, but don't do anything radical by telling anybody.
You said don't tell them. Why? You told.
Yep. And what happened? I'm discharged.
Do you regret your decision now?
No, I don't. But the kids that come up and tell me, they're just starting their professional career, being in a job where they want to be and they love. And so I am not encouraging them to come out.
There's a kind of a wink policy, isn't there? I mean, don't people understand that they have homosexual persons in their midst?
But you can't tell the difference between a homosexual person and a heterosexual person.
Sergeant Stephanie Christensen, a nurse, has served 2 years guard with Greta Kammermeyer. As an enlisted person, Sergeant Christensen is sworn to reveal the truth every time she re-ups.
You're filling out a form and it says, are you homosexual, yes or no? If you want to stay in the Army, you're going to check no.
Are you saying then that if you are gay and you are in the military, you're forced to lie about it?
Yes, I am.
Are you homosexual?
No.
And vil du ha noe å spise? Now that Greta's secret is out in the open, so is a relationship with Diane, an artist who lives in California. And Greta, who used to think of the military as family,
Happy birthday to you,
finds her own children are her greatest allies.
No matter what she loses, she's going to do what's right.
Greta Kammermeyer finally paid the price of following her convictions on a gray day last June, when she left her home to take part in a National Guard training drill for the last time. Our cameras were barred from the base,
Attention!
but we were secretly given these home videos.
Officers, as of the 11th of June, I will be out of the military. For me, it's the end of my career. I apologize if it has been an embarrassment to you to be a member of the Guard. That was certainly never my intent. You're a wonderful team, and you will do well. And thank you very much. It's pretty tough to try to keep your proper military bearing, all of that sort of stuff. Just seemed to go out the window today.
Do you think you'll ever take that uniform out of your closet and put it on again?
I hope to do it while I'm alive. Otherwise, my plan is to be cremated in it. So it'll go with me to Valhalla.
Just today, President-elect Bill Clinton repeated his promise to end the military's ban on homosexuals and said he'll form a panel to advise him how best to go about it. A few hours later, Greta Kammermeyer told us she would like to be on that panel.
In a moment, more on our investigation of the Food Lion grocery chain, when Primetime continues after this from our ABC stations.
Saturday on the commish.
He's not afraid to kill.
He was a psychopath.
He's a cop killer. You said that you were going to protect him.
The commish, Saturday.
This is a 27 News update.
People will come in and sign up, and they'll be able to give up to 5 minutes of oral testimony on the project.
But that will come at a big public hearing next week. Tonight, residents of Middle Paxton Township got to examine the state's plans for relieving congestion on their busy highway. We'll have more on the controversy involved and tell you how you can put in your 2 cents worth too. Good evening, I'm Rick Wagner. Also on 27 News tonight, a large part of Lancaster and its neighboring townships had their power knocked off by high winds tonight. We'll update that for you from our crew in Lancaster right now. So join us at 11 o'clock for 27 News tonight.
When Buick talks quality, it's not just award-winning automobiles. Introducing Quality Plus, exclusively for 93 Buick owners. If your 93 Buick needs service, we'll drive you home or to work. Overnight, we'll give you a car to drive.
Buick quality.
quality, value, and style, your South Central Pennsylvania Buick dealers say welcome home.
Temple battles #1 Miami, Saturday at noon on WHTM.
Primetime, once again from New York, Diane Sawyer.
We want to tell you now what's happened since our investigation last week into criticisms of the nation's fastest growing grocery chain, Food Lion. Last week, our undercover investigation showed you, among other things, how employees rewrap old fish and chicken to go back out for sale as fresh.
Telling you the right way, but I'm doing another way.
How deli salads were out for sale weeks beyond their sell-by date.
Isn't there a schedule where you're supposed to change the salads?
Sure there is. We don't have one.
Sell the bad stuff first.
What'd she say?
Put the bad stuff on the top.
Within minutes after our show, Food Lion Chairman Tom Smith went on local television, denouncing the broadcast, saying that the employees must have known about the hidden cameras.
They were obviously in stores of people who were disgruntled with Food Lion and had axe to grind with Food Lion. When they were showing the meat products, you saw people talking into the camera. You saw the meat being tilted to the camera.
As we told you, no one in the stores knew who we were or that we had hidden cameras. Nothing was staged. When you saw a Food Lion employee look toward the camera or show something to it, that's because the employee was talking to our producer, who had the hidden camera. And remember, Food Lion decided which stores we'd work in, and the things you saw on camera, like the regrinding of old ground beef, were captured in just a few days at each store. Food Lion also accused us of lying about the out-of-date chicken we showed you being repackaged with barbecue sauce, as evidence saying in one scene you're looking at chicken legs, in another at chicken breasts. We'll take a look at the tapes. You can see several parts of the chicken got the barbecue treatment that day. But despite this footage, Food Lion also issued a statement denying they use barbecue sauce at all on any of their meats, saying the only barbecue sauce in Food Lion's meat departments is on pre-packaged products from suppliers. And by the way, our affiliate in Dallas-Fort Worth, WFAA, heard from Craig Lewis, a consumer who bought these spare ribs from Food Lion. They too were covered with barbecue sauce. He says after seeing our broadcast, he checked out the package. He discovered under the visible label, there was another label, showing the date on the meat had actually expired 2 days earlier.
It had the 4th, but they put a new label over it. That's why I bought it, because I thought it was fresh on the 6th.
He says the store manager at Food Lion apologized, but gave no explanation. And in Moore, Oklahoma, a reporter from KOCO uncovered a health department complaint report that accused a Food Lion store of pulling produce out of a dumpster and putting it back out for sale.
I have no idea who made the complaint.
But it's exactly what they showed in the primetime story of what people said happened.
That complaint was made 2 weeks before our broadcast.
Food Lion, in my book, is #1.
In Texas, 800 Food Lion employees held a rally for their stores. And at Food Lion stores across the South, many customers offered support.
I think it was a hoax. I was very disappointed in the broadcast, and that's why I'm shopping here today.
I mean, you can't really judge a whole food chain on one store. You know, that's my opinion of it. I don't think that one store is going to make a big difference.
But we remind you, our 70 sources worked at over 200 Food Lion stores. Now, one of the things they told us about was how dates were removed or hidden on eggs, yogurt, cheese, and meats. We used a picture of generic products to illustrate this in a graphic. You may have spotted Colombo yogurt or Healthy Choice luncheon meats. They are not sold at any Food Lion stores, and we apologize for the confusion. Now, an update on another area, sanitation. You'll remember we showed you how employees in the meat departments did not clean the equipment properly. This week, North Carolina health officials announced increased inspections of some Food Lion stores. And last week, we told you about a Labor Department investigation of Food Lion of off-the-clock work. We told you about reports that a preliminary investigation had showed substantial violations. Well, Food Lion says they understand from their contacts at the Labor Department that any complaint or litigation is not imminent and that there may never be such a proceeding. We'll keep you posted.
Coming up, Actor Michael Caine. He thought he knew his mother, but then he found out about her double life. Their story, when Primetime continues.
This month, American businesses could lose 1,800,000 calls. That could be enough lost customers to fill Dallas. Next month, Memphis and Tucson. Calls they wouldn't have to lose if they used the most reliable 800 service, AT&T, instead of another service. This year alone, that could mean 12 million more customers and millions of sales. So choose AT&T 800 service, and you can get everything that's coming to you.
Thank you, Doctor.
I'm not a real doctor, but if I were, I'd recommend ligament for occasional muscle pain.
Still going. Nothing outlasts the Energizer. They keep going and going.
Do you have what it takes to escape from the cyborg? Pick up the Escape from Cyber City CDI and capture the experience on your television with the Philips Imagination Machine.
It seems Europeans have a passion for certain things American. And one of them happens to be the reliable, efficient delivery of a certain American delivery company, UPS. Fact is, we've built the most comprehensive delivery network in Europe. So next time you need something shipped there, use the outfit Europeans find, well, so fashionable. UPS. We run the tightest ship in Europe.
I have to admit, I'm a little surprised.
About what?
I just never thought I'd see you in anything but a BMW or a Lexus.
Me neither.
Airbag? Leather? This is quality. Expensive?
About 10, 15,000 less than the BMW or Lexus. I think it feels just as good.
What? Oh, there's Pontiac Bonneville. It's amazing.
In 3 days, the television event of the year. A world premiere movie. The story you only thought you knew.
Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5.
Together, they touched millions.
Just look over your shoulders, honey.
Separately, they paid the price.
No more, baby. You hear me? No more.
ABC presents a shocking look.
It's my blood going through your veins.
At music's most mysterious family.
You just gotta be who you are, Michael.
From the streets, the studios, and the world.
Never seen anything like it.
For the first time, you'll see the whole story. Sunday, The Jacksons. At 8, 7 Central.
Our next story is about a man who thought he knew everything about his family, only to learn of a stunning secret his mother kept for over 60 years. The discovery forced him to reevaluate his whole world and gave him an entirely new perspective of his mother. That man, with contributing correspondent Nancy Collins, he talks openly about himself, his mother, and her double life.
Hello? They never make these cars big enough, do they? Well, you all settled in? Right, we can begin. My name is...
Alfie.
Alfie. When I was 29, I was £4,000 in debt. By the time I was 33, I was a millionaire.
What is it all about, Alfie?
Alfie launched Michael Caine on a career that's lasted 3 decades and over 70 movies. And that million is now an estimated $42 million.
Suddenly, if you become rich and famous, you can also suddenly become very attractive to the opposite sex, or whichever sex you want to find.
We met with Caine in London, where he has just written his autobiography, fittingly called What's It All About? And what it was all about for Caine was a childhood in the Cockney slums of London.
Now, your dad was a fish porter, which meant that he sold fish?
No, he just carried it from one place to the other and iced it up and put it on the trucks. My family had done that for generations. They were generations of labourers, and they were educated to be labourers. So was I, but I bucked the system.
Caine was born Maurice John Micklewhite in 1933. He grew up in a house where there was no electricity until he was 13 years old. With the family just one step ahead of the rent collector, Caine and his younger brother Stanley relied on the strength of his mother Ellen, who was a cleaning lady.
Was she tough, your mother? Was she tender?
She was very supportive, but she wasn't tender, kissing and cuddling sort of tender. I mean, we had to be tough. If we got in a fight in the street, she'd come out and say, go back out and fight, you know, and then